Taylor Witzgoff here. I'm the Deputy Director of Political Parity, which is a program with Health Alternatives Fund. And it's been my pleasure to work with Tiffany Dufu for the past 3 years on our shared passion of promoting women's leadership. Tiffany is such an inspiring young leader, from her work in her hometown in Seattle to here in Boston, where she served at Simmons College, was the lead Boston Fellow, and a catalyst for the Commonwealth Compact Project. And now she's at the White House Project. Where as president, Tiffany has expanded the organizational focus to appeal to a wider audience in order to empower women in politics and in business. Tiffany is leading a movement to propel women into leadership positions in business and politics with a focus on young women. Tiffany is building a pipeline in business and in politics now and for the future. Tiffany's often said that she's on this planet to serve women and girls. She feels that it's her personal responsibility to make an impact, and it's evident in her leadership. In my experience with Tiffany, she serves on our leadership team. It's a bipartisan group of 50 women who weigh in on strategies to double the number of women in Congress. So as you can imagine, it's a bipartisan, very opinionated group. We've been in some difficult meetings together. What I really love about working with Tiffany is that she's not only a calm and inspirational leader, but she's a focused leader. It doesn't matter where our conversation is going. She never loses her vision. She's a laser focus on the greater goal of inspiring women. She was put on this planet to advance women, and I'm so honored to share a slice of that work with her. Tiffany.
Thank you so much. One of the first things that I learned from a very important sponsor and mentor of mine, Marie Wilson, is that you should always introduce a woman in such a way that she would want to know herself. And you did a great job, Taylor, introducing a woman. And what I love is that you didn't just read from the bio, or you weren't just reads. You really spoke from your heart, and I really appreciate that. She knows, and it's the first thing that I always say, is that my life's work is advancing women and girls. It's why I'm on the planet. So my life is quite simple. I pretty much know what's on my tombstone, and I'm just project managing my life backwards. I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet because I get to execute my purpose as president of the White House Project. And I'm especially grateful and appreciative to be here because I would not be president of the White House Project if it was not for Massachusetts. I spent 2 years here in Boston in 2005 and 2006, and my own civic engagement was very much catalyzed by Deval Patrick, who I ended up working with on his first campaign for governor. And so combine that experience with why I'm on the planet. When I moved to New York, someone in my network here said, you have to go see Marie Wilson at the White House Project, and I did, and the rest is history. So thank you, Boston, and thank you, everyone, for being here and for really taking this work to the next level. Thank you, Maria, for inviting me to even be here today. I just feel really humbled and honored. Leah Webb was a healthcare worker in upstate New York. She was very concerned, particularly about the rates of obesity of African Americans in her community. There was a Popeye's Chicken, there was a McDonald's, there was no grocery store within the city limits. There hadn't been a grocery store in the city limits in over 15 years. Leah began to lobby the city council for a grocery store. She spent about a year doing it, and we found out about her because she was making a bit of a ruckus in her town. We went up to meet with her, and we asked her whether or not she would consider running for the city council. There was going to be an open seat. Well, what do you think her first response to us was? No, hell no. Council, they don't listen. Haven't you heard I've been trying to get a grocery store open for over a year and no one is doing anything about it? So long story short, we get her to come to a training. She actually eventually does run. She wins. She becomes the youngest person ever to sit on the city council at 28 years old. I'm the only African American woman to ever sit on the city council, and within 2 years, she breaks ground on a save-a-lot, right, which is what she wanted to do. And I tell Leah a story because it's really the ability to tap into what matters to women and where they are that has allowed the White House Project to recruit over 14,000 of them across the country to advance their leadership. We're headquartered in New York, but our alumni hail from over 45 states. And we really are focused on, as Taylor said, building the pipeline for the future. We ignite the leadership of women in both business and politics and really spend our time connecting and coaching and educating those women. I am here, and my team is here to really put the White House Project out of business. I long have believed that the White House Project shouldn't even exist. And we feel like we can do that when all levels of leadership are diversified with women who are equipped to lead in the 21st century. And there are 3 outcomes that we're particularly focused on right now in order to make that happen. The first outcome is to increase the number of women who have the leadership assets we know that are required in order for them to be successful. And I wish I had more time to really go into them. But essentially, we spent some time last year doing a study of our most successful alums. We called them our superstars. And really kind of figuring out what is it about some of these women that causes them to run, they win, they've been promoted several times, they're just really fantastic leaders. And what we learned was that they had some qualities that were very similar. They had a very strong sense of self-viability. They were all very politically savvy, just meaning that they understood that every environment was a political system and that they had to learn how to navigate the system. In fact, if one of our superstar alums was here, the first thing she would do was scan this room. She would understand that this conference right here is a political environment. And she would be trying to figure out what kind of visibility she could create for herself, who she needed to connect with. It's all part of the process. They were also very effective storytellers and story sharers. And it was no wonder, after speaking to so many of them, that they were so gifted at engendering all of these other people to support them in their leadership journey. So the first outcome is really making sure that women are exhibiting the mindsets and the abilities and the skills associated with these qualities and these assets. The second outcome is increasing the number of women who are actively pursuing positions of power and influence and obtaining them. There's this phenomenon where women have all of these really great ideas about how to make the world a better place, but very few of us understand that the most effective strategy to creating the kind of impact that you want to see in the world is making an investment in your own leadership. And it's part of why we really try to The third outcome is increasing the number of women who have the mentors and the sponsors that they need in order for them to be effective. And I don't have enough time to really go into the difference between the two, but please see me. They're different, and it's very important for you to understand the difference between a mentor and a sponsor and have both of them in your life. So the combination of those 3 dynamics, having the leadership assets that you need to be successful, making sure that you have your eye on a particular prize, and making sure that you have the right people in your ecosystem. That's the success equation at the White House Project, and I'm engendered to it, one, because it's accessible. You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar or have gone to an Ivy League school to tap into the success equation. I'm also engendered to it because it's my success equation. I'm here as president of the White House Project because of it, particularly because of mentorship and because of sponsors like Marie Wilson, who have really played an active role in my leadership development. And I'm really hell-bent on bottling and mass reproducing and distributing that White House Project success equation to an entire generation of women. The timekeeper's really good. It's a lot. It's a lot of pressure, isn't it? Sorry if I'm talking really quickly, but I've only got a little bit more time. I'm so excited to be here because the White House Project, as Taylor said, is part of a larger national movement to get more women into positions of leadership. And of course, Emerge is a part of that. I consider Emerge a sister organization. Is Judy here? Thank you so much for your work. There are so many other organizations running START, Emily's list, Annie's list, the Women's Campaign Forum, many that I haven't mentioned, Ready to Run, which is Rutgers program, the 2012 project, all really committed to this work because, you know, nationally, we're not doing so well either. In Congress, there are 535 seats, and women are filling 90 of them. Women of color fill only 24 out of 535 seats. So we're 4% of Congress. Okay? Think about the percentage that we are of our population versus that. We're not doing very well in any of the other levels. Our state legislatures nationally, we're at about 23%. And so there's a long ways to go, but I'm so inspired by all of you. And if there's a couple of things I would just leave you with. One is that your leadership is in your own hands. I have a 6-year-old son and I have a 3-year-old daughter, and not that long ago, my 3-year-old daughter came into the bathroom with my son and I, and she says, I'm going to go apple picking. She has a very active imagination. And we said, okay, great. She came back in a few minutes later with this big barrel of apples. And her brother, in very typical big brother fashion, reached down into her barrel of apples, pulled out one of her apples, and says, ha, I've got one of your apples. Well, my daughter Akua goes ballistic. She drops her barrel of apples onto the floor and she starts screaming at him, give me back my apple, and she's jumping up. She can't quite reach his arm. And I was so fascinated as someone who obviously spent a lot of time focused on women's leadership with this dynamic, which was that here she invited us into her imaginary world that she has complete control over. And yet, in a matter of seconds, she's allowing her big brother to dictate the terms of it. And I just thought it was so fascinating because women do that all the time. Don't we do that all the time? We are really the most powerful change agents in our own journey, and yet we allow other people to hijack it. And so I really want to encourage you to really acknowledge and understand that your leadership is in your own hands. And the second that I have to leave you with is really related to this commercial that I'm obsessed with. It's a Delta Airlines commercial. It's called Keep Climbing. And you can just Google Keep Climbing on YouTube. It will come up. There are about 50,000 hits, and 40,000 are mine. That's over and over again. And it features Delta Airline employees, and the voiceover says, it begins, what does it take to fly? It takes knowing that we've got our work cut out for us. Flying brings more challenges every day. But if you ask the pilots, they'll tell you that the first thing they learned in flight school is that if you run before the wind, you can't take off. You have to turn into it, face it. The thing you push against is the thing that lifts you up. And I love that commercial because it just reminds me over and over that my leadership journey is not supposed to be easy. Like nothing worth achieving ever is. But there is such a fantastic resource of people with this project, with the Women's Pipeline for Change, at the White House Project, at Emerge, at Running Start, at Hunt Alternatives with the Political Parity Project that is so committed to helping you along your journey. I'm here. So many people in this room are here, and we just want to encourage you to make sure that you're reaching up, that you keep climbing, and that you run for office. That is a formal official invitation. So thank you very much.